Lord of the Flies is an enticing tale of a group of boys who are forced to survive alone on an empty island. Throughout the novel, William Golding supports a theme of loss of identity through symbols, archetypes, and characters. One of the most relevant characters that expresses this theme is Jack. He starts out as Meridu the choir leader. However, to adapt to the new way of living on the island, Jack's role as choir leader and the name Meridu are both quickly stripped from him on page 23. Jack's in charge of the choir. They can be, what do you want them to be? Hunters. So with Ralph as chief and Jack as lead hunter, Jack must get ready to hunt and kill, which is when he begins to change drastically. As read on page 31, he snatched his knife out of the sheath and slammed it into the tree trunk. Next time there would be no mercy. In my opinion, this was when Jack really snapped. He became obsessed with hunting pigs and obsessed with the blood and gore involved. Because of this, he lost focus on being rescued and retained a savage's mindset, which of course caused his relationship with Ralph to decline, eventually to a point where Jack is fed up with Ralph as chief on page 127. Who thinks Ralph oughtn't to be chief? And he makes his own tribe a few lines after. I'm not going to be part of Ralph's lot. I'm going off by myself. He can catch his own pigs. Anyone who wants to hunt when I do can come too. Jack's new tribe members don't come right away, but it is foreshadowed to happen when he doesn't come back like they were expecting. As the boys filter in, Jack's tribe becomes known for having pig feasts, which draws most of the rest in. Although there are many benefits to being in Jack's tribe, like surviving and eating well, Jack himself becomes a dictator, unlike the leader Ralph was. He seems to know this and forces his tribe to hate Ralph, a big difference from the beginning of the story when everybody looked up to Ralph. Now in their Castle Rock fort, they literally and metaphorically look down on Ralph, who ends up being the only sane person left. Jack changes drastically from leader to assistant to dictator from the start of the novel to the end. However, he seems to regain consciousness when the ship arrives and the boys are rescued, as he cries just like old choir boy Meridu would have. An archetype, or technically two archetypes, that help support Golding's theme of loss of identity are the colors pink and red. The color archetype pink represents friendship, togetherness, and general positivity. This is what the island first radiates when the boys arrive and explore it, as described on page 27 and 28. The pink granite on the next cliff was further back from the creepers and trees so they could trot up the path. At last, the way to the top looked like a scramble over pink rock, with no more plunging through darkness. After the boys rolled the rock off the mountain, there's this quote describing the forest below. Echoes and birds flew, white and pink dust floated. The forest further down shook, as with the passage of an enraged monster, and the island was still. If you couldn't already tell, Golding associates the island with the color pink to show how it starts out as a friendly and fun place. However, as the other characters change and the story becomes more sinister, the color pink is forgotten and replaced with red. The color archetype red represents sacrifice, violence, passion, and blood. Strangely enough, after the mention of red rocks on page 107, all of the above happened. He clenched his fist and beat hammer-wise on the red wall at his right. In this quote, violence is associated with red. At the beginning of the book, a fire burns a boy alive. Fire is red. Jack turns evil. Coincidentally, what color is his hair? Red. And when is a sacrifice made with violence? When Simon comes back down the mountain after discovering the parachutist. Through these events, Golding shows how the island loses its identity of friendliness and gains violence, blood, and evil. A symbol that helps support the theme of loss of identity is fire. Although one associated with the color archetype red represents evil, at the beginning of the novel it also resembles hope. When the fire goes out, however, the characters lose their identities and begin turning evil. For instance, when Jack catches his first pig on page 69. Look, we've killed a pig, we stole up on them, we got in a circle. Moments before this, Ralph sees a ship. Since the fire wasn't going, he got upset. And since it was the hunters' job to keep the fire going, Ralph got upset at the hunters. However, his being upset at the hunters eventually caused them to resent him. It may seem far-fetched, but it all does come back to the fire. Another example is the parachutist. The boys would have been able to disprove the beast if they had kept the fire going at the top of the mountain. However, the fires going out forced them down the hill, and they never got a true glimpse of the parachutist. In front of them, only 3 or 4 yards away, was a rock-like hump where no rock should be. In this quote, Ralph makes out what he thinks is the beast. However, it is actually the parachutist, which he cannot see thanks to the fire being gone. Although it may seem crazy, there is a correlation between fire and causing separation and change in characters, and even change in the colors around the island. After my theme analysis in Lord of the Flies, I have determined that Golding's worldview is something along the lines of, when things go wrong, everything changes. People's setting mindset, they all change. I think this is why he used a theme of loss of identity in Lord of the Flies. He pushes it through certain characters, archetypes, and symbols, all of which evolve throughout the story as things went wrong. An island that was once filled with happy, thriving kids and bright colors and growth turned out to be a deceiving hole full of blood, violence, and unfortunate kids who outgrew their childhood not by choice or age, but by their bad luck of being stranded on an island with no adults.